Let me tell you a tale about a cat named Puss in Boots. Adapted by Jane Gerard, illustrated by Susan Spellman. Once upon a time, there was a poor countryman who raised 3 sons. When the man died, they agreed to divide up the few things he owned. The eldest took his house, the middle son got his donkey, and the youngest son was left with only his father's cat, Puss. "What on earth will I do with a cat?" moaned the young man. Excuse me. He could barely keep himself fed, and had nothing to offer a pet. Puss overheard the third son and answered, "Don't worry, master. If you give me a sack and a pair of boots, you'll find that you have the most valuable thing your father has ever owned." The youngest son, feeling he had nothing to lose, gave the cat what he asked for. The cat put on the old pair of boots and took the sack to a place where he knew many fat rabbits came to find dinner. He put some tender young grass in the sack and lay down beside it as if he were dead. Soon enough, Puss caught a plump brown rabbit in the sack. He carried the sack straight to the castle and asked to see the king himself. When Puss was brought before the king, he bowed low and offered the king a nice fat rabbit, and saying, "Sir, please accept this gift from my master, the Duke of Carabas," for that is the name he had chosen for his master. "Thank you. Your answer, master, for me," answered the king. A few days later, the cat returned and gave the king a pair of fat white turtle doves, and a few days after that, he brought a dozen quail eggs. For several weeks, Puss brought many gifts to the king, explaining that the presents were from the Duke of Carabas. The king was charmed by such a well-mannered cat and enjoyed the presents very much. But he was beginning to wonder about the cat's master. Who was the mysterious Duke of Carabas, and why had the king never heard of him? The king finally decided that whoever he was, the Duke was certainly a friendly and generous person. One day, the cat learned that the king and his daughter would be right near the river. Puss went to his master and told him to take off his shirt and breeches and stand in the river near the bridge at noon the next day. "Is this pedophilia or what?" Anyway, trusting Puss, the master did everything he was asked. The next day at noon, as the king's carriage was crossing the bridge, the cat cried out, "Help! Help! My master, the Duke of Carabas, is drowned!" "Oh, wait. The prince isn't naked. His master isn't naked. He's just wearing a nightshirt." But still, the king knew the cat and the name of the Duke well enough, and he ordered his guards to save the man. Puss told the king that his master's clothes had been stolen from him. The king insisted on dressing the Duke of Carabas in an extra suit of his own clothes. The Duke was grateful and thanked the king for his kindness. He looked quite handsome in the fine clothes. The king's daughter, the princess, who was very beautiful, told him so. The king invited the Duke to ride with his daughter and him. As they rode happily in the carriage, the cat ran ahead of the royal coach, quite pleased with himself. As he ran ahead of the coach, Puss ordered every farmer and worker to be on the road. "You must tell the king the land you work on belongs to the Duke of Carabas. If you do not, the ogre who lives in that far castle will chop you into little pieces for stew." All the farmers and workers were very frightened of the ogre in the castle, so they did what the cat had asked. When the king stopped to ask whose land was crossing, he heard the Duke of Carabas, no matter how far he went. "You certainly do have a lot of land," the king said to the Duke. The princess smiled at him, and the Duke smiled back. He had no idea what was happening. He was just thinking of how beautiful the princess was. At last, Puss came to the great castle, which really did belong to the ogre, and so did all the lands he had passed through. Puss knew all about the ogre. He went right into the castle and asked to see him. Soon enough, the cat was brought before the ogre. It is said that you can take the shape of any animal you choose, said Pussy Ogre. That you can, if you wish, turn yourself into a lion. True enough, said the ogre proudly, and he turned himself into a lion. The cat, seeing a fierce lion suddenly appear, was so frightened he jumped into a tall cupboard. But his boots slipped out from under him, and he slid back down. The ogre turned back into an ogre again. Puss admitted that he'd been quite frightened and complimented the ogre on his skill. People who also say that you can change yourself into the tiniest of creatures, said Puss. A mouse, for example. But that is impossible. Impossible? Cried the ogre. Watch this! And he changed himself into a mouse, right then and there. Well, of course, the cat, Puss, being a cat, gobbled him up in one quick bite. Just then, the king's carriage arrived at the castle gate. Puss ran to meet it, saying, Welcome, sire, to the castle of the Duke of Carabas. Why, is this your castle, my friend? The king asked the Duke. May we come in? The Duke only smiled and turned to help the princess out of the carriage. As the cat's order, the ogre servants prepared a wonderful meal for the guests. While they ate, it was decided that the prince should marry the Duke of Carabas right away, since it was plain that they were in love. As for Puss in Boots, he became a great lord and never had to hunt for mice again, except sometimes for fun. The end.